All right, let's move on from the Philadelphia Flyers as one of the losers. And Chad, let's get your loser.
I'm picking another team in the Metro that I actually like quite a bit more than the Philadelphia Flyers, and that's the Pittsburgh Penguins as trade deadline losers. Why? Because they didn't bring anyone in of significance to add to this aging core, which A, might not make the playoffs, B, if they do make the playoffs, are probably going to get steamrolled by Boston. So if you're Pittsburgh, you need to follow the Boston model. Bring in everyone you can and mortgage your future to a certain extent to add to your core and give them one last push or a couple more pushes. And Pittsburgh just didn't do that. They added Mikael Granlund for a second-round pick. That's fine. He's playing at 3C. He has 36 points in 58 games this year in Nashville, none in his first two in Pittsburgh. But he's never scored 30 goals. He's never had 70 points. So essentially, he's a middle six player who can get you some depth scoring, but he's really is a player like that going to move the needle if you don't add anything else? They added Kulikov as well, which again, that's fine. And they added Bonino as a fourth line center who they know and like. And then going out, you've got Brock McGinn, Kasperi Kapanen. Kapanen was a waiver casualty and some picks, but I just don't think the Pittsburgh Penguins did nearly enough at this deadline to give their core another shot at it. And not only another shot in the playoffs, but another shot in the arm, another injection to just give them some energy to be able to get to the playoffs, because they've had some decent goaltending this year, which is, the first time in a while. I guess Jari was good last year until the playoffs, but you need to take advantage of it if you're Pittsburgh, and I feel like they very much didn't at the deadline.
Yeah, I think that everyone's a little disappointed in Pittsburgh at this trade deadline, and I think there's an expectation of more coming, but I don't know if I can go as far as you are, because I think they did bring in some good pieces at some good value. I think Kulikov for a third and a player that wasn't really playing for them, and Brock McGinn are playing well for them, is good value. Nick Bonino for a seventh and a fifth is great value in my mind for a depth guy with a ton of experience who could be playing better on the Pittsburgh Penguins compared to San Jose. Granlund is having a phenomenal year for him. I get that he's not quite the piece most people wanted for Pittsburgh, but I think he's having a great season, and a second is a good price for him. And Teddy Bluger as well. I think that they've brought in good pieces, but I think they brought in the pieces of a team that are second or third in the conference. Teams to push your already phenomenal team over the edge, whereas they're a team that still needs to make the playoffs. So that, in my mind, could make them a loser.
I agree with that case, and I don't have, I'll just be clear, I don't have a problem with the value they gave up at all. I think for the most part, they win all of the deals that they made.
Makes sense.
It's just, if you're Pittsburgh, I think you have to follow the Boston approach and just truly give your guys the best chance to win. Add an Orlov if that's what you need. Different situation, but why not be in on Timo Meier? Make the money work. It's just, I feel like they needed that one big piece, and they just weren't able to get it. So for me, that's a loss at the trade deadline in my books.
Yeah, I don't have really much more to add on the Pens, but we've heard this time and again, when you have guys like Crosby, Malkin, and Letang, you're going for it every single year. And I was surprised that, again, going back to Washington and kind of the direction that they decided to go in, I was surprised a little bit, just the fact that Ovechkin is there and wants to win another cup after winning in 2018. But, I look at Pittsburgh and I just thought that, they're in such a similar spot, like the Capitals, and just figured that the smart thing to do would be for them to do the same thing as Washington. Just did not seem to be on the table there. Mike Sullivan and Ron Hextall, I think that there was some sort of disagreement there. We heard that Sullivan really wanted them to bring in a player like Jacob Chikrin, and Hextall just felt that they didn't have the assets to do it. But Case, I'm with you. They did add 3 pretty good players who I think can help them. How much, we're not sure. And I do like that point that, it's sort of like the moves that the Colorado Avalanche made last year to put them over the top with guys like Arturi Lehkonen and so on and so forth. So don't expect the Pens to necessarily get in and go on a big run, but you never know with this group. And, as long as you have Crosby and company, they're going to be in it. So
think about it this way, though. Essentially, Pittsburgh traded Brock McGinn and John Marino for Kulikov and Ty Smith. So I don't. When you put it that way, the value starts going out the window, because you replaced the worst player in Kulikov for John Marino, and then brought in Ty Smith, who has upside, but he's an AHL player.
The thing with McGinn, I don't have a problem with him going out because you bring in Bonino, and I think they're pretty similar players. I think Bonino, obviously, because he's a centerman, just fits the bottom 6 better for this team. They needed a guy to take important draws, and Bonino does that.
He's been there before.
And he won 2 cups with them, so that's something too. But man, I just looked at the moves and thought, no problem with the value. Just thought they should have added bigger and more impactful pieces. And that's why they're my losers.
And before the comment warriors come out about my John Marino comments, I get that there's cap implications and they got to move the cap. But I just thought it was fun to look at it that way.